Now, I know that after lunch is often not an ideal time to get people to energise. I'm aware of that. So I'm going to try in a very short space of time to get a little bit increased blood flow to those bits of you that you've forgotten about or that aren't working as well as they can. But before I begin, just a little introduction. My name is Mary. I'm a sixth generation Tasmanian. I'm the mother of three and the delighted grandmother of seven, and I'm married for nearly 50 years to a long-suffering psychiatrist. That might tell you something about me. And I don't have a medical bone in my body, but I do have a fairly extensive knowledge of Pilates. Now, Ella may have given you a little bit of insight. Pilates was a person, in fact, and you can pursue that history if you're interested. Now, I wish I'd met you in 2010 because I was completing my advanced diploma in Pilates and I had to present a 5,000-word critical report on a condition. And guess what? I chose multiple sclerosis. I knew one person who had the condition, and she was generous enough to be my kind of guinea pig, I suppose, and I wrote my thesis on that subject. I obviously did a lot of research. I got some work from the Multiple Sclerosis Centre and I looked online for research in exercise and Pilates and MS, and there's not a lot because research is, as you know, it's ongoing and we're only just starting to look at the advantages of Pilates or for things like Parkinson's, MS, neurological balance issues for people. But we're going to talk about stretching. Just while I mention about the work that Ella and I do, she left a form, and it may not have been made clear to you. If there is interest in a small group class for people with MS, obviously the class would be tailored to what is possible, because I'm aware of the fact that there's a grey, a variance in how much mobility you may have and so on. To finish my thesis, I designed 8 clinical Pilates programs for this particular person. And she had a lot of mobile issues with mobility, so it was quite a challenge for both of us. And I was aware of keeping her temperature, constant and so on and so forth, not overstressing her. So when the body doesn't work quite as we would like, and I'm afraid it never does, but there's a lot you can do. There's a sort of a glib saying that you don't stop moving because you're growing older. You actually grow older if you stop moving. Now, I totally believe that. And if you've been sitting here doing the figures that I've been with my husband for 50 years, you'll get some idea that I do have a few miles, under my belt, so to speak. Well hidden. Anyway, so I'm not aware of what limitations there are, but stretching is critical for posture, for energising those muscles that we do need as much as we can to keep using. So I'm just going to get you to in your seats, and then we might do, a few of you might stand, and I'm going to run out of time, that's obvious, but I want you to think about ways where you can just get this blood flow to areas that maybe, sort of all fall in a heap because you're not using them. One of the most important ones is how you sit. So when you're sitting and you're feeling a little post-lunch and a little, sort of like it might be nice to have a bit of a break, you tend to slump. That's normal. But if I can unslump you, that would be a great thrill to me. So if you could just sit yourself up a bit, have the feet just dangling. Now, what I want to start with is a squeeze of the butt. Okay. So what happens there is you activate your gluteal muscles, your hip muscles. Hip muscles are vital for all sorts of things. So if you could just gently squeeze your butt cheeks and you breathe out and then you breathe in and you let them go. It's as simple as that. Now, I can tell if you're doing it. You squeeze the butt cheeks. It's just a little stretch of the buttocks, and then you let it go. Breathing also is important. When we're not working well physically, we tend to breathe in the upper part of our lung capacity, a chest if you like. Very important that you can get the breath to help the stretch. So that's stretch number one, the bottom stretch. It's just good, you sort of squeeze, I used to say $5 note, but I'll make it 50. Okay, so a little squeeze of the $50 note. What that also does is it activates, and I'm sorry to get intimate, but it activates the pelvic floor, and blokes, you've got one as well. You just don't necessarily know what to do with it, but women sure do. So it's very important that you activate the pelvic floor, and you get, it's called in Chinese, in some of the Chinese yoga type things, it's called closing the jade gate. Go figure. It's not like any jade gate I've ever seen, but you just want to give it a little squeeze. Right, so that's that. Now then there's the issue of the shoulders. The shoulders tend to slump. You then develop a sort of a hump here. Don't you hate it? You know, and it's just hard to get everything to do what it's meant to do. People talk about the core. You'll have heard core. I need more core strength. Well, believe it or not, the core is not the tummy. The core is everything that sits between the shoulder girdle and the pelvis. So it's all the musculature, and guess what? It's back and front. So you can have the flattest stomach in another life that you could ever wish for, but if you haven't got good back muscles, you're going to be in strife. And that's where this slumping goes. So I want to unslump you. I just want you to sit up. I want you to be aware of being on both cheeks equally, because the other thing we do is we tend to have a favourite side. So you find yourself sort of, you know, getting into these kind of habits. Okay, so we undo that. Now, to open out the chest, and this isn't meant to make you look or feel ridiculous, but you want to open the chest so that you can gently tighten in these muscles here. These are your thoracic or your rhomboids muscles, doesn't matter what they're called, but you want to be able to take the shoulders back. So if you can take your hands behind the chair and grab them, I'm just going to shout. Can you hear me if I just shout? Oh, you need it for the video. I'll go back to the microphone. Okay. I'm going to shout. I'm not good at this. I don't like standing still, as you've probably worked out. So we've got our hands grasped behind, and I want you gently to pull them down so your shoulders drop away, and then back as though you're squeezing a pencil down here. Does that make sense? So just a little, and then you breathe in and you breathe out. And you let everything relax. You breathe in again. And then you breathe out. Now I want to activate the core. So I want you to draw your navel back towards your spine or the chair a little bit, just all that stuff. Bring it in a little bit and allow the rib cage to just gently press inwards. I call it funneling. So we're just going to breathe, holding the arms back, shoulders are open, head is erect. And you breathe in, and as you breathe out, that belly just goes back a little bit towards your spine. Then you breathe in, and you breathe out. So little tiny openings here of the chest, so important. Then, without hitting anyone in the face, take the arms out to the side. Now what will happen is often there'll be a discrepancy, because one shoulder will be up, and I'm sorry, I've got all my winter gear on, but you want the shoulders to be seated. You want wingtips that extend that way. So I want you to breathe in, and as you breathe out, the belly goes back, the rib cage funnels, and everything looks hourglass. Then you breathe in, and then you breathe out. Good. Now, this is fatiguing, because you're holding your arm weight up. So that's an exercise. It actually, you don't need a weight. You've got the weight of your arms. I'm going to stop in a minute. Now what I want you to do is we're all going to the right. You're going to breathe in and go round to the right. You're stretching your left rib cage. You breathe out to come back, your shoulders are down. Oh, you look wonderful. You breathe in to go to the left. I'm mirroring you, by the way. And you breathe out to come back. Now, these are good stretches. Now take one arm down, your right arm down, your left arm up. Now, then there'll be a temptation to lift your shoulder. So lifting, can you see me? Lifting like that is not what you want. You want to imagine I'm sitting on your shoulder, and you've got one hand down by your side, and you're going to reach that arm up, but not with the shoulder. And you'll breathe out. It's as simple as that. It is fatiguing. Take it down, swap it, get that shoulder down. Try not to throw your hips or do anything else. It's just a reaching up, but the shoulder is drawing down. So you're stretching through your armpit area and so on. And breathe out. Now, I am making these quite fast. Just relax for a bit. Why don't we do a little shoulder roll? A lot of tension is worn in the shoulder area, particularly if you're not mobile, because what do you do when you can't move? You watch and work at a damn screen, don't you, at a computer. So there's an awful lot of focusing. I'm guessing, but most of us will spend a bit of time, and that's very bad for posture often. So we want to be able to undo that sort of habit. It's a habitual posture compensation for focusing and so on. So I want you to think of the shoulders dropping away, the head being proud. So you're not walking around with your head up in the air and your shoulders pulled back and you're pulling your belly in and you're squeezing your $5 note. That's not going to work. So it has to sit nicely and it has to work for you. So next time you find yourself sitting, just take a moment to lift the shoulders up to your ears, earrings if you've got them on, and then drop them away. It's delicious. It just lowers, you decompress. You come up and you go down. And breathing is part of it. Up and down. Good. Now, the roll down is a classic Pilates exercise. I'm sure Ella would have done a bit of this. The roll down, when Pilates designed it, only went as far as the spine would stretch without you having to tilt your pelvis. Okay? However, and since then, and he died in 1967, since then we've evolved into a full roll down. I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to use the microphone. So, the spine needs to be decompressed. And as we age and become more sedentary, it compresses down. The spatial bits between the vertebrae and the ribs stiffen. So to keep the spine mobile, the roll down is a beautiful stretch. Now, it's also supposed to be very good for hot flushes, should you know what they're about. And and it's also supposed to be very good for high blood pressure, the roll down. So I had this image of me being furious at a queue at the supermarket and thinking my blood pressure's through the roof and I'm having a hot flush, so I might just do a roll down. That wouldn't have gone down well. But it's a lovely way to warm up the spine. So we're going to try, I'll do it first, then we'll just try it in the chair, so you just do as much as you can, and then I'm aware of the time, I'm going to get you to stand up and finish with a lovely roll down. I probably haven't done as many stretches as Ella, but what I want you to take away is the position of the shoulders, a little activation of the belly. It's not huge. It's not huge. It's just an awareness, a sense of being proud and upright, however you are. So the roll down. What I'm going to do, and it goes with the breath, is I'm going to nod my head forward. Don't do it yet because I want you to watch. I am now stretching the back of my neck. Nothing else has happened. I then allow myself to look down towards my shoes, and I'm stretching down towards my bra strap. Most of you must know what that is. Then my hands are hanging, my head is flopped. I go a little further and I get the most wonderful stretch through my mid-back. Now that's as far as Pilates went. But what we do is we tilt the pelvis and we go down and down and down. I'm sorry, it's not my best view. Right down to the floor. Okay, now I'm getting a massive stretch up my hamstrings, in my bottom and in my low back. I then take a breath in, and on the exhale, I lift my belly button up towards my spine, getting it out of the way of all that stuff, and up I come bone by bone by bone till my head's up. Now, I've made that last a good minute or so. When I did my first course, we spent an entire day on the roll down, and I can remember thinking, look, cut all this rubbish, let's get to the sexy stuff. You know, I want to do the leg round my ear and stuff like that. What I realise in the 10, 15 years I've been teaching is the roll down is fantastic. It is a really good way to open out those stiff muscles. When you wake up in the morning, if you feel it takes you a few minutes to get going, and it sure does for a lot of people, you feel a bit kind of stiff and you've got to kind of stagger around, you're a bit flexed, and then after a few minutes you're more upright. The roll down will help with that. So let's try it seated. I'm going to do it, I'll do the chair bit too. You just need to make sure you're not going to hit your head on the table, so move yourself a little. I'm going to finish with this. Sit on the edge of the chair if you can, and your legs will be a little apart because we're going to drop our head forward. Don't think about being in a plane. This is one of the positions they put you in if things go pear-shaped. But we're going to start upright with a nice breath in, looking straight ahead. On the breath out, drop the chin down onto your chest. There's your stretch behind your neck. I'm going to have to just work with my hands hanging. Then you continue and you drop yourself over like a little ball, and your head just comes towards your knees. And you breathe in there, and on the exhale, incy-wincy spider, like a string of pearls, you come up. Imagine bone by bone by bone by bone by bone, and the last thing up is the back of your head. So, before we do it standing up and I go, you've probably realised by now that I'm hard to shut up. They used to pay me to talk, but quite a few of my friends said they'd actually be prepared to pay me to stop. So I am going to stop, but what I want you to do, those of you that can, is stand. Those that don't wish to, stay in your chair, and let's enjoy it. Just remember, you're coming up like a string of pearls, bone by bone. Every bony bit of your vertebrae needs to come back upright, and the head's last, and you're ready to greet the day. So here we go. We stand with the feet apart, hands just hang, look ahead, shoulders are open and falling away. Breathe in. On the exhale, the belly goes back, you look down to where it was, and then you continue travelling, and you don't force yourself any further than you can go. Some will go to the floor, others will go sort of halfway down. Doesn't matter. You breathe in there, and now you're going to lift up. The belly's going to push back in towards the spine. You haven't lifted your head. Don't lift your head forward to see what anyone else is doing. You come right up till your shoulders are open, and then the head lifts as the last thing. So a way to remember this if you want, and please sit back down, the way to remember this if you want to try it again is imagine you're against a wall, and you can actually do that, but you need to step out a bit and then lean back against the wall. You actually peel yourself off the wall, and then you peel yourself, if you can peel yourself, back on. So keep the shoulders drawing down. Keep a little sense of what you can do within the limitations. Don't stop moving, no matter what. That's what will do more damage to the ageing process than if you try to challenge within the limitations. Even little neck turns, little nods, shoulder rolls, opening out the chest, squeezing the $50 note for a second or two. All of that is going to get blood flow to your bits, and you need that. So I do wish you well. I wish I'd met you before. If you're interested in a small class that's designed for you, you need to write your name, and what we would plan is that we would do it somewhere within the multiple sclerosis environment, and it would probably be largely Ella because I'm never around, but I do take a fair bit of our classes. And, you know, that would be a delight to be able to have a small group of, say, 6 or 8 people. We don't want a great crowd, but it's amazing what you can do when you're trained. So thank you all again. Many thanks.
Excellent. Excellent.